Hello again, finance class. I know what you're thinking. Half of you are looking at me and you're going, Mr. Claiborne, this is the same day. You're wearing the same clothes. No. Most of my closet just looks the same. This is, in fact, not a black shirt like yesterday. This is a charcoal gray shirt. In fact, most of my t-shirts are gray or black or the combination of the two, like this one is. Okay. Now, let's get going on with Chapter 9. 2 more videos left in Chapter 9. I'm going to do both of those today. And we're picking up on page 201. Wait, no, is that right? No, 200, page 200. We're going to be talking about the importance of life insurance. Okay. Keywords for this one is going to be beneficiaries and financial risk. Also, the main goal for this, we got to look at why you should get life insurance, when you need it in your life, when you don't need it, and then some financial goals you should have that would help you not need it anymore. All right, well, without further ado, let's get started on the video lesson. We're in Chapter 9, Importance of Life Insurance, 3.1. Here it goes.
Life insurance. Life insurance is to replace lost income due to death. Someone early in this business came up with a better marketing term because it's not really life insurance, is it? It's death insurance. It insures your death, not your life. So when you die, someone else is going to get some money. So it's really of no concern to you. Yeah, it is, because we care about those that we leave behind, and we want to do a good job in our financial planning. And so what we're trying to do here is, if you're making some money and your family's eating off of that money and you die, you won't be making money anymore. And we need to replace that income that's lost due to death. Most people, when it comes to life insurance, have no idea what they own. And a scary statistic is this: 22% of the public, that's about a fourth, have no life insurance whatsoever. And that's a bad number, especially with rates the way they are today and how things are going on. Now, let's look at the different kinds of life insurance, because I've got a distinct opinion on this, and this is the lesson where I make all the insurance people really mad. I mean, really, 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 really hate mail mad. And you know how much I care? Not at all. So just send me some more things I can put in the shredder. It's fine with me. Couldn't care less. I've been studying this for years, and I've converted more people out of the insurance business to my way of thinking, because it's not really my way of thinking. This stuff's been taught for years in financial planning. 2 kinds of life insurance. There's term life insurance. It's for a specified period, for a term. If you have 5-year term, it's for a 5-year term. That's why they call it that. It's cheaper, has no savings plan built into it. Then there are cash value insurance plans, and they're normally for life. They're more expensive, much more expensive, in order to fund a savings plan. And they sometimes are called permanent insurance. You may have heard them called that. Sometimes these are called whole life or universal life or variable universal life or just variable life. These are the phrases used to cover cash value types insurance. Term is always called term. The rest of this has some other kind of name always, and it builds a savings plan inside of it. But I don't know that there's really anything permanent about your need for life insurance. The most common insurance myth is that the need for life insurance is a permanent situation. The only permanent situation I can think of is your agent's need for a commission. 20 years from now, if you do what we teach, you will have become self-insured. Let's think through this for just a second.
Okay, before he thinks through it, I'm gonna kind of steal his thunder just a little bit and make sure that we're understanding what he's talking about. So again, 2 types of insurance: term and cash value. Term is the good one. That's the short version of it. If you're going to do your finances and be responsible, then term is the good life insurance. Even if you're not responsible, term is still the better life insurance. The cash value insurance is not a great retirement plan. That's why we didn't cover it in the chapter on investing. If cash value life insurance were a really good entire retirement plan with a good rate of return, we would have covered it in the investing chapter, but we didn't, because it doesn't have a good rate of return. It's like an attempt to be a jack of all trades, but it ends up being what's the saying? Oh yeah, it goes jack of all trades but a master of none, right? So it usually turns out to not be so great life insurance, but also not so great savings. just go for the life insurance only. So yeah, we'll let that continue. Now he's going to talk about the when you start needing life insurance and when you probably won't need it anymore. Okay.
20 years from now, if you do what we teach, you will have become self-insured. Let's think through this for just a second. Who in here is about, say, like 30 years old with a couple of kids? Right here. What's your all's names?
Dwayne and Brenda Phillips.
Dwayne and Brenda. Good to meet you, sir. Looking all proper here in your tie. You're sharp, man. So how old are your kiddos?
We have one that's 8 and one that's 10 months.
One that's 8 and one that is 10 months. Perfect. Would y'all just kind of stand up? I'm not going to mess with you or make you mad or anything. I just need a really good example, okay? 8 and 10 months. Wow, very cool. All right, Dwayne and Brenda. Did I do that right? Okay, I've got a good memory. It's just short. Okay, now, Dwayne and Brenda are 30 years old. They've got 2 kids. Now, think about this for a second. If they bought 20-year level term life insurance, like I suggest, 20 years from now, they'll be 50. 20 years from now, the 8-year-old will be 28 and should have left home. Then we've got the 10-month-old that will be about 21 years old, probably in college, and about to leave home. Now, let's say that at that point, they do what I teach and they took out no more than a 15-year mortgage. Their house would be paid for, wouldn't it? Say yes.
Yes.
Would they have any other debt?
No.
Never. Okay. Would they have an emergency fund fully funded? 20 years later, easy, right? Now, let's just think a minute. We're not trying to get rid of you anytime soon, but let's say at 52 years old, he drops dead with no insurance. The kids are grown and gone. She has $800,000 in the investment plan and a paid-for house. No insurance. Can she suffer through?
Yes.
You've become self-insured using financial planning. Getting out of debt, building wealth, and growing up the kids and tossing them out helped you to become self-insured. Does that make sense? So see why there is not a permanent need for life insurance?
Yes.
This is what we're dealing with.
There's my volume. Found it. Okay. So what he's talking about is something you do need to take into account when you do need life insurance. So when you do need life insurance is around the time you start building a family, because then those are the things that you have to count into your cost. Like for me, for my example, my life insurance covers the cost it would take for my wife to pay for my children's tuition all the way through college. It also covers the cost of her being able to initiate a payment or initiate the sale of a house. And then it also covers the cost of all of her living expenses for about 5 years. That's what my life insurance would pay for. It'd pay for about half the cost of a house, my son's entire schooling from private all the way up to when they start college, and then it would also cover everything my wife would need to pay for about 5 years. The reasoning behind that level of life insurance that I have right now for this point in time in my life is because if I die, my wife needs to probably go to college or go to a trade school or find a way to pay the bills. Also, my sons need to go to private school. I'm not going to let them go to some crazy public school, right? I want them in a private Christian school, so that needs to be paid for. And then lastly, my wife and my family need a place to live, so they need to be able to get into a house. And then once my wife has that 5 years of buffer period where she can figure out a career, start paying the bills on her own, she can take over all that, and then still not have to worry about paying for my son's education until they turn 18 or 19 or 18. Yeah, I was trying to remember what year they started kindergarten. So those are the things you take into account when you're picking the amount of money you get for your life insurance. And as far as what stage you're at in life is how many people depend on the income that you create. And if you are to die, the things that you want to make sure are paid for after you die. So that's how that works. It's a pretty simple thing to estimate. Let's pick it back up with the video. Why? Oh, whoops! I muted the video. There it goes.
It was a September day. My assistant came in and said, Dave, there's a guy outside in the reception area that who wants to meet you. And I get over there, I walk into our reception area, and this young guy stands up in the middle of September with a stocking cap on. And his pretty little wife stands up beside him, and I said, well, hi, I'm Dave. And he said, my name's Steve. I'm Steve Manus. And he said, I just wanted to stop by and tell you thank you. I'm thinking, thank me for what? And he said, Dave, you changed our lives. The stuff you teach, it's unbelievable. And I said, well, thanks. That's really nice. Actually, I was writing, so it's kind of inspiring. So I thought, this is nice. And he said, no, you just really don't understand, do you? And I said, well, you're welcome. I'm glad you're winning. And he said, no. And he reached up and he took a stocking cap just like this off the top of his head. And I went, wow. Because there was a big scar right across the top of his head. And of course, his head had been shaved because he'd been operated on. He said, Dave, I'm 28 years old. I got brain cancer. The doc says, I'm not gonna make it. This is my 23-year-old wife, Sandy. Because of what you teach, Sandy's gonna be okay. And he said, Dave, before all this happened, we were out of debt. We had an emergency fund. And I'm thinking, that's important, but what's that matter in light of this? And he said, no. I got $400,000 in term life insurance on me before this happened. Sandy's gonna be okay. And we got an HSA. We got a good health savings program. And so 100% of my medical bills have been paid. And everything's going to be okay financially. He said, you don't know how much easier it makes it to fight cancer when you're doing it from that kind of a setting. Thank you. Well, Steve Manus and I became friends right then. And we walked with him and Sandy as they fought the cancer. And you know how fighting cancer is. It comes back, and then you think you're going to beat it, and then it comes back again. And I wrote about them because of the importance of insurance in one of my books. And a wealthy friend of mine read the story and anonymously gave them the gift of a 7-day cruise in the Caribbean. Well, November 17th, Steve came by the office with his dad, and he just became a friend to everybody on our team. He was an inspiration. He was something else. 11 days later, 4:30 in the afternoon, we lost Steve Manus. If he had lived just 3 more days, we'd have been able to introduce him to his son, Whitten. Sandy and Whitten, it's a sad story, but they're doing really well. Whitten's a little pistol, kind of like his dad. You see, the things that we talk about around here, it's about life. Don't confuse financial planning with doing the right thing for your family. It's about life.
All right. So if you guys remember the lecture that I gave at the very beginning of this course, climbing the mountain of life, and at the very top of the mountain is there's a giant skull that I draw up there, which is when you die. Essentially, it's the main habit that you want to get into when it comes to personal finances is making sure your death isn't a burden on other people, right? So, that story you just told, that was a great example where this guy was able to prepare properly financially, and his family was actually, they had time to grieve. So when you die, somebody's going to care, right? Somebody's going to want to be at your funeral. You can sit there and be a dumb teenager and be like, oh, no one's going to be there. No one cares. Yeah, you're being a dumb teenager. People care. People will be there. So as an adult, when you die, you want to make your death as least burdensome on those around you that financially depend on you as possible. Or even if you're old, if you're an adult, you want to be able to leave something behind to your children instead of them having to argue with your debt collectors who keep trying to convince them that they should pay your debts. Side note, we already talked about that. That's not true. If your parents die with debt, you have no responsibility to pay them, but that won't stop people from asking. But the point is, when you die, you want to be a blessing even in death to those around you. So try to keep that in mind. I think this is about the end of the video. Let's see what else they got. Unwise to hope for the best without praying for the worst. Anonymous. That's lame. Are they going to go to the journal? Actually, before they go to the journal, let's talk about this lame quote. Where is it? Nope, not back to the fields. Whoops. Where is it? Here we go. It is unwise to hope for the best without preparing for the worst. That is very lame. I've got a better quote. It's from a mathematician, because, I like my dead mathematicians. It's actually Rene Descartes. He's probably one of the most interesting mathematicians that I've got up on my wall. But one thing that he wrote is he actually wrote this after, I think it was like his 4 or 5-year-old daughter died of pneumonia, or maybe it was tuberculosis. I don't know. His 4 or 5-year-old daughter died of some disease or some illness that people died of back then. And after he finished mourning for his daughter, he wrote, I can't get the exact quote right, but he wrote something along the lines of few men are thoroughly prepared for the contingencies of life. Meaning that few people prepare themselves for the unplanned events. Contingency is not definitely your primary plan for what happens. It's not even an alternate plan. It is like the unforeseen reality. That's more or less what contingency is. It's like the backup's backup. But if you're referring to a contingency that occurs in life, it's not something you were planning. It's not something that you were backup planning for. It's something that was unexpected. So more or less his way of saying that few men are prepared for the contingencies of life, he was saying, few people actually prepare themselves for the unexpected. So the unexpected would be, people around you dying, which is kind of a misnomer, because everyone will die one day. I think that's another thing I mentioned at the very beginning of the course. You and everyone will die. The question is, who's going to die first? Will you die first or your friends die first? It doesn't matter. What matters is how you deal with those moments, and how much of a burden you create on those around you when it's your turn to die. So be polite when you die. Don't burden other people. Life lessons with Mr. Claiborne.
Okay, we're about to go into a Debbie Downer subject. You ready? We're going to talk about the importance of writing a will.
Whoa, okay. Her dad just got done talking about this really sad story of this guy who dies like 3 days before his son's birth, and she thinks she's got a Debbie Downer. Oh, wow. Okay, all right, let's hear it, Rachel.
A will is a legal document that lists a person's wishes on how their money and property should be handled after their death. It covers things like who gets your car, or whether or not you want to be an organ donor. Now, I get that you're young, and even talking about death feels creepy and morbid. But the truth is, life is totally unpredictable. That's why I recommend that everyone 18 and older get a will. You might not have much or anything to leave, but you still need one. By planning ahead, you will make things easier on your loved ones if anything happens to you. It's a powerful way to show that you care. And it's a relatively simple process. As you get older and buy more things and increase your savings, be sure to update your will. Trust me, it only takes a few minutes, but it is so worth it.
Okay. Yep, getting a will. So, hold on, I gotta pause this. I can still hear the music. Getting a will is a really good idea, especially as you start getting into college. There's actually a handout where you kind of do a fake will. I don't do it every year. I don't think I'm going to use it this year, but maybe I will use it in future years. It just depends on how much time we have to finish off the course. But getting a will is a really good habit because it helps you more or less. Let me put it this way. When we talked about goal setting and planning, we remembered that the best way to set goals is to write them down. That's part of why we're doing a life plan. Well, think of a will as a death plan, right? Goals don't really work until you write them down, because then they become a reality. It's like, oh wow, if this is going to happen, this and this and this I need to follow through with them, right? So think of it that way. A will is more like a plan or a goal for what happens when you die. When you actually put it down on paper, it will become more real to you. You'll understand the gravity of the situation, and then you'll be a little bit more prepared. And she's right. At 18, you guys usually have a lot of nothing. to put on a will. But you can put some last requests on there, right? And that's something that can, again, ease the pain and suffering of people that want to go to your funeral. So, like, for example, in a will, you could write, a statement that you like read at your funeral. You can pick, a song to be played at your wake or your ceremony or your viewing or whatever. You can make a lot of decisions about how your death is handled that might ease the pain of those around you. So, good things to think about. That's it for this video. I'm going to record one more, and then I'm done for the day.